Gemara Simatova to everybody. A good kvitzel, as we say. All right, the Gemara and Lama Gimel with Aleph. It says, Reish Galusa Bana Besa. Reish Galusa built a house. Amalei Nachman Kavali Mezuzta. So he tells Nachman, put up my mezuzahs for me. Nachman is often with the Reish Galusa. Amar Nachman, Tali Dashi Beresha. You need to put up the doors first. That's the Pashas what it means, Tali Dashi Beresha. Now Rashi learns Tali Dashi Beresha doesn't mean the doors, it means the door posts. We're talking about a case over here where there weren't yet door posts up. There were just somehow just the openings. They were going to be planning to put door posts. And Rashi learns that if you put the mezuzah first, and then afterwards put up the door posts, then it's a problem of tasav alam and aswi. We learn this by various halachas throughout the Torah, such as tzitzis or sukkah, wherever the Torah says tasa, that you have to do it, you have to put it in. You can't attach it when it's already done. You have to do it at the shas chiyuv. You have to create the chiyuv. You have to create the object at the time of the shas chiyuv. For example, if you have separate corners of beged and you tie tzitzis into it, and then you sew those corners onto a beged, so then that's pasul for tzitzis because tasav alam and asui. It says tzitzis tasav lecha, so you have to put it into the beged that's chayav already, not put it into these little holes, the little corners, and then attach it on afterwards. Or a sukkah also, you can't put the schach up first and then put up the walls. It has to be schach over walls first, and then the other way, and then put the schach on. If you put the schach first and then walls, then it's called tasev alam and asui. It wasn't really schach over a sukkah yet, and then you created the sukkah around the schach, so it's tasev alam and asui. Here also, the mokum chiyuv is going to be on these doorposts, and if you put it up before somehow, then you're going to attach the doorposts afterwards. Rashi learns it's a problem of tasev alam and asui. That's what Rashi is learning. So now, Tosas disagrees. Tosas says that it should have said kavah sifi beresha. If Rashi is learning this, talking about the doorposts, those are called sifim, not dashi. Dashi means doors. And also, he says if that's the case, then the Gemara should have brought this case later on Lama Gimel Lama Beis, where there's going to be a case there of somebody put the mezuzahs into like these wooden sidings, and then they attach those sidings onto the doorposts. So those sidings become part of the doorpost. So it comes out that you put the mezuzah in the doorpost before it was attached to the doorway, and that's similar to putting the tzitzis into the corners before putting it onto the beged. And there the Gemara says this problem of tasav alam and asui. There the Gemara speaks out explicitly that it's tasav alam and asui. It's that problem, and here the Gemara does not say that. So Tosas has a time on Rashi that the Gemara should have said it here, or should have brought it over there, or should have said more clearly it's talking about the doorposts, not the doors. And this has nothing to do with doors, according to Rashi and Tosas. It has to do with the doorposts. The doors don't matter, the actual door opening and closing doors. So Tosas disagrees with Rashi and learns that over here it's not a new din of Tasav Alam Asui, but it's a continuation of the previous Gemara, which the Gemara says there that the Gemara, immediately previously, the Gemara said, "Mezuzah heilich achar heker tzir." You always go after heker tzir. What's heker tzir? That Rashi, we learned this last year, that the hinge of the door, the side that it's on, when you have a doorway which is not clear, which is set up for going in or out, one way or the other, it seems to be equally useful, and it's there's no way to determine which way is the ikar. So then we go after the heker tzir. We go after where the hinge, meaning which way the door opens into, to be kaveh the mezuzah on that way, on the way in. So Tosas says that this is just a continuation of that Gemara, which is just 2 lines before, that Rav Nachman was telling the Reish Galusa that we need to put up the doorways before we put up the mezuzah in order to determine which side to put it on. So it should be heker tzir. That's the way Tosas learned. So we have Rashi and Tosas over here, what we're really talking about. Now the Rambam very famously learns this Gemara to tell us a new din, that a door, an actual door, an opening and closing door is ma'akev. I think we discussed this in the past. That if it's missing a door in the doorway, then it's pater from mezuzah. Because the Rambam in the beginning of Perek Vav of mezuzah, he says a list of 10 requirements to be chayav in a mezuzah, and one of them is yulo delasos, that there are doors in the doorways. Without actual doors, you're pater. And then again in halacha hey, Perek Vav halacha hey, he, together with the halacha that he holds that a house without a tikkur, without a roof, is pater from mezuzah, he ends off saying, "Lambidim hadalasos v'charka kovim is mezuzah." You have to put up the doors, and then afterwards put up the mezuzah. So the Kesef Mishnah, everybody learns that the Rambam was learning this Gemara, Kipshuto. The Gemara said by the Reish Galusa, the Nachman told him that Tali Dashi V'Reisha, put up the doors first. So Tosfos already pointed out, Akasha and Rashi, that if we're talking about the doorway, we're talking about the side posts, whatever, then it should have said Sifi, not Dashi. Dashi means doors. So that's why Tosfos says we're talking about Heker Tzir, which way the door opens. But the Rambam takes it more literal. The Rambam is learning the Gemara like Rashi. There's a problem of Tasav Laman Asui, that if you put up the mezuzah before you put up the other parts of the doorway which cause the chiyuv, then it's going to be a problem of, if the mezuzah is up first, then you add the doors, then it's Tasav Laman Asui. And that's why the Gemara is Meduyak when it says Dashi, it's talking about doors. The Rambam actually learns that you need doors. So the Kesef Mishnah brings down the Ravid, asked the Kasha, the Rambam, that on the spot in Halacha Aleph, where do you see this from? The Gemara is talking about Heker Tzir. But the Rambam, so the Ravid is learning like Tosfos. But the answer is the Rambam learned like Rashi. We're not talking about Heker Tzir. It's a new din over here, Tasalim and Asli. Just Rashi learns that a door is not ma'akev, so it's only Tasalim and Asli. If you're missing the door panels, the sides of the door itself doesn't make a difference. Or according to Rashi, you could say it doesn't hinge on a door. But according to the Rambam, it depends on it. So the Rambam learns, like Rashi, that the problem is tasav v'lemin asli. Don't put up the mezuzah before you have a door that's chayav. Just the Rambam learns that what makes the door chayav is an actual door in the doorway. So if you look at the Kesef Mishnah there on the spot brings down that the Chachmei Lumil, who had asked many kashas to the Rambam, asked this kasha to the Rambam, that where do you get this raya that you need a door, without a door, and mezuzah is pater, if the Gemara only means mitzad Heker Tzir. So the Rambam vehemently answers them that very strongly, that where do you get that it's talking about Heker Tzir? Just because it's nearby in the Gemara. So we don't darshan smuchim, he says, in a Gemara. That we spoke about Heker Tzir before, it doesn't mean we're talking about Heker Tzir now. And the Rambam says a new lumbus, he says a tremendous chiddush. He darshans the word when it says al mezuzas v'secha visha arecha, which generally we learn that to mean two separate things. There's the doors of the house that are chayav, v'secha uvisha arecha. Also the sha'arim are also chayav, that are further out. The Rambam says no, that's not what it means. It means v'secha uvisha arecha. I mean it's a qualifying what kind of doors are chayav in a house only if it's considered a shar. And the Rambam is machadish that a shar is only called a shar when it has a door, an actual opening and closing door. It has a door in the doorway. If it's missing a door, it doesn't have a door there, it's called a pesach, not a shar. And we don't find that the Torah is machayev psachim, it's machayev sharim. The shar is only when there's a door there. He says that nobody disagrees with that. It's a davar pashut. Everyone is. So the Rambam is very strongly holds that you need to have an actual door to be chayav. So this is a fascinating machlokes. The fact, just on a side point, on what the Rambam assumes or takes for granted that a shar is only called a shar when it has a door. So Rav Ephraim Fischel Perlau and his parish to the Rasag, to Rasad Yagoin, when he goes through all the mitzvahs, so then he says, Mezuzah b'pischecha sela. The Rasad Yagoin says, the Lashon Pesach by L'chiyah Mezuzah. So Rasad Yagoin is medayik from, the Perlau is medayik from Rasad Yagoin, that we see clearly that the Torah is not specifying to have a shar. You're chayav in a Pesach also, even if it's not with a door. And he brings a list of Rishonim that all hold that way, that the Ikar Hadin is not the Loka Rambam. We don't pass like the Rambam. It brings many, many rayas that it's even if we grant the Rambam you need for it to be a shar, we find many places in the Torah that have sharim that don't have doors, such as all the openings in the Beis Hamikdash are many times in Tanakh called sharim, and it's Yedua that those psachim did not have doors, all the internal openings in the Beis Hamikdash. So we see clearly that a shar, he says, is called a shar even without an actual door in the doorway. But besides that, he says that even that's only granting the Rambam that lumdus, but that chiddush. But he brings a raya from the Side to go and others that even if it's called a Pesach, it doesn't matter. It's called the shar or Pesach. The Torah is mechayav all these things, and Misharecha is also including the external sharim outside of the house. But the Rambam holds what he holds. And in Shulchan Aruch, in find Shulchan Aruch. Yeah, it's Reish Pei Vav Tes Vav. He brings two shitas. The stam shita he brings is a bais. A house, even though it doesn't have doors, is chayav mezuzah. There is who says it's pater, referring obviously to the Rambam. So now, the common nafkaminas over here, la halacha, that first of all, the Shach points out, the Shach in Chafei says that if you're, according to the second shita, according to the Rambam, if you put the mezuzah before you put up the door, you're not yotzei, because that's what the Rambam holds. It's a problem with tashlu and osoi. So if you put up, it happens sometimes, you have a doorway there. So it says, in order to be yotzei, both shitas, if you should always put the door up first and then the mezuzah. But if you can't, so put it up there without a bracha, or make a bracha before on a different one, and have your das on this one as well. And then when you put the door up, you should take it off and put it back on again without a bracha, or make a bracha on a different one that you're putting up anyway. But he says you should put it up without a bracha because it's a suffolk brachas over here. Now it's mashma that he's saying put up without a bracha, even according to the Rambam himself, which Rabbi Kiveger asks Akasha on the Shach that why would the Shach assume according to the Rambam himself he would not make a bracha? You put it up to begin with without a bracha. Or you had kavanah with it for a different mezuzah, and you had the kavanah when you made the bracha on it. So why would you take the mezuzah off? You totally took it off in order to put it back on to start the chiyuv. So then why would you not make a bracha now? Even not according to the Rambam, according to the other shita, why shouldn't you make a bracha? So Kiveger answers with the poskim and Orach Chaim Sin and Hay and Hilchos Tzitzis, that those that hold that if you take off your talis but das to put it back on again, then it's a machlokus over there, machlokus Mechaber and Ramah and everything, other poskim, whether you make a bracha or not. The Mechaber seems to hold that every time you take a talis off, even with das to put it back on, you make another bracha, but we poskim not that way. And Rav Shlomo Zalman, I heard from him that even Sfardim shouldn't make a bracha because I'm not going to go into that now. That's already getting into Hilchos Tzitzis right now. That's getting complicated. But the Maisa, the Kiveger wants to say that the pshat and the shach here is based on those poskim in Hilchos Tzitzis by a talis. If you take it off with das to put it back on, you don't make another bracha. So over here also, if you have the mezuzah on already, to take it off now and make another bracha, once it's already on, then there's no makom to make a new bracha because there was a suffix to begin with, whether you're already maybe yotzei. So al kapana, you wouldn't make another bracha. But one thing you do see from the shach though, you see from the shach clearly is that the shach is being choshesh for the shitas Rambam. Lamaisa, even though Ikar Din we hold that a door is high without and a doorway is high without an actual door, like the first day, like the Shulchan Aruch Paskins, but still he's choshesh for the shitas Rambam the Inyan bracha. So halacha lamaisa, if we put up a mezuzah in a place that does not have a actual door on the doorway, somewhere in the house, let's say, then pashtus you would not make a bracha because of choshesh for the shitas Rambam. So that's an important halacha l'maisa that comes out of this. There's just a fascinating question, which we're not going to go into too much. I'll just mention it because it's here in the spot.
Wouldn't we have to say normally if Maran brought two shitos and he brought one stam v'yesh, doesn't normally the halacha go like stam? So if he says mechuyev in a mezuzah, once you're mechuyev in a mezuzah, doesn't that take you out of safek berachot lahakel?
Well, that the Shach is holding that it's still enough of a. I mean, the Shitas Rambam is enough to still be kosher for a bracha, because since it is brought as a yeshomer, so if it wasn't brought at all and it's just it was just out there, but it wasn't brought in Shulchan Aruch, then it'd be something else. Once it's mentioned in Shulchan Aruch, so there's room to be kosher for a bracha l'vatala.
I thought normally like the.
If it would make a bracha, then you wouldn't say to use bracha l'vatala, but still we're kosher. And that's the minhag of the world, is we don't make a bracha on a door without a door.
I'm saying I thought normally once we establish that there is a mitzvah, that's the kiyum mitzvah, so we don't say safek berachot lahakel neged maran if there is a kiyum mitzvah. Like once he establishes that this is the proper way to do the mitzvah, so then if he says to make a bracha, we should make a bracha.
I'm not sure. I can't tell you what the minhag of the Sephardim is on this. I didn't get a chance to look that up. So we can check to see what the Sephardim do make a bracha. But the Shach clearly says not to. So, I guess it remains somewhat of a subject. Now, just end off this discussion with a couple more points. That the Piskei Tshuva and Yud Daled brings down from the Gon Milisa. Gon Milisa is the same author as the Chavas Das and Yordea and the Nesivus, Choshen Mishpat. He was a contemporary of Rabbi Kiveger, who Kiveger was very highly machshiv, one of the Ikar Poskim we have. So he says that even according to the Poskim, that if there's no door, it's pater. In other words, even according to the Rambam, if you will put up the mezuzah when there is a door, and afterwards you remove the door, like sometimes it's like you're moving furniture or whatever, so you have to take off the door to move the furniture in, and then you put the door back on again. So would that be a problem of Tasev V'Lo Asui? Because right now, according to the Rambam, you have the door off, there's a mezuzah there, and you're only going to create a new chiyuv when you put the door back on again. So he raises the question, but he says it's not a problem of Tasev V'Lo Asui. It's not. And also the Piskei Tshuva in the previous Sifkat also brings us in the name of Shaz and Tshuva's Arba Turi Evan, the same psak, same halacha. So the lumdus, the pashtus is that Taseh and Asui, as long as it was put on properly, you did the Taseh. So then what you did now is to take away a t'nai of the chiyuv. It's not the actual chiyuv, it's a t'nai in the chiyuv. Then that doesn't not. It's not misalik, it's not mafkia, the asiyah that was done, the proper asiyah, the proper action that was done to begin with. We have the same question also by talis, it rips. When you put it on properly and then the corner rips. So as long as it's still attached to the kosher, even though that would not be, you couldn't have attached it to begin with in that way, but it didn't totally rip all the way off, then you can re-sew it back on again. It would not be a problem with Taslim and Asli. Because you have to do something which to the actual asiyah itself. The door sof kol sof is a tanai. Now, to say this, he has to be understanding that the door is only a tanai. From the words of the Rambam, that he says that it's only considered a shar when it has a door, so one could perhaps really, it makes it a little less simple than what he's saying, because if it's not a shar at all, then it seems like it's totally removed, like you don't even have a chiyuv at all at that moment. So it's an interesting question. If you take the words of the Rambam literally, then this psak of the Chavas Das of the Gon Milisa is not so simple. Perhaps it could be Taslim and Asui. There's a discussion as well in Hilchos Sukkah, which maybe at some point we'll discuss it more when we get to Amud Beis in the sugya of Taslim and Asui. Maybe we'll talk about this more. But that if you put up a sukkah properly, you put the walls first and then the schach. We're Erev Sukkos now. So you put and then the walls fall down, but the schach stays up intact. And you put the walls back up again. So it's a Shalom Poskim, does that become Taseh V'Lo Asui? Since if you would put schach up without walls and then add the walls afterwards, that is Taseh V'Lo Asui. If the walls fell what's the halacha in that case. So we'll maybe talk about that sometime. But I think I remember C. Pesach Frank in Mikra Kodesh says that it's kosher because again, an action wasn't done. The action of putting up the tasa of the schach was done properly, and now the side tanaya of that, those walls, that it was the tanaya that fell in, not the actual schach. We would put it if the schach would fall off and the walls fall off, and you put the schach back up again. Obviously, that would puzzle because you have no walls. But if it's already up the way it was put up a kashrus, the walls fall down. I'm pretty sure he says it's kosher. Well, don't quote me on that. So we will have to look into that over Sukkot, and we'll talk about it after Sukkot or sometime. Okay. Now, one last point in the Rambam, which is it just came up recently when I was learning this, that there's a interesting kasha on the Rambam that a doorway, and the door has to be there. And there's a Gemara where you haven't learned yet, Amid Beis. The Gemara brings a brisa that a Beis Shar, a Chsadra, and a Merpeses are chayav and mezuzah. And the sugya over here is talking about an Chsadra is a 3-walled structure. There is no fourth wall at all. It's like an outdoor structure, which the Gemara is just discussing over here that it has the fourth side only has 2 poles to hold up the ceiling or whatever's on the ceiling, whatever kind of schach's up there. And it says that its pottery really has these. They're called psimim because they're not there really to be a doorway. They're just there to hold up what's up on top. There's an interesting kiddush that a doorway, or like sometimes you have poles, whatever, and you come to a house that they're only up there to hold the roof up, or they're not really an actual opening. They're not actually an entryway. So the Maisa says that it's putter only because it doesn't have tzimim. If it would have tzimim, if they would be there to be an opening and not just to be to hold up the ceiling, then it would be chayav. But since it's a 3-sided thing and it's open on the 4 sides, so there's no door there. So why, according to the Rambam, would it be chayav? Why is it putter only because it doesn't have tzimim that are there for the sake of a side entryway if there's no door? So I found this kasha in one of the achronim in the Das Kedoshim, one of the main achronim in Hilchos Stam, in Hilchos Mezuzah. So he wants to say a dochak. He wants to say the Rambam is talking about a case where you actually, even though there's no actual side of the 4th side, but you did put up a door there, which seems to be contrary to the whole simple understanding, simple read of that whole sugya. Very schwer. So I found on one of the Meforshim on the Das Kedoshim called the Geduli Hekdesh, says a beautiful vort. He wants to say in the Rambam that when does the Rambam say that without a door it's not considered a doorway? That's when we're talking about a house. Or a normal way to live in a house is that it has tznius and people can't just walk in and out. A normal house has a door to close it. Otherwise, it's just not. That's not how you live in a house. Just like the Rambam says that a house without a ceiling, without a roof, is not a house, because you don't live in a house normally when it's open to the sky. Similarly, you don't live in a house that has an open doorway that anyone can walk in who wants to. So when the Rambam says that a door is ma'akev, he meant in a place where you need to have a door. Masha'enken, these type of things that don't need a door, they're made to be not tznius, they're made to be outside. So then in such a case, if you have pshimi, it will be chayav even without a door. I think it's a really beautiful shot. The problem is that the words of the Rambam and the tshuva and the Kesef Mishnah that he brings down don't seem to be mashma that way, because if he defines a doorway, a shar, as having a door, so then it's a little bit of a stretch to say that the Rambam only meant those types of doorways that are closing a house. But I don't think it's really that difficult to say it, because that's really the whole chiyuv, according to the Rambam, of all these structures is only going to be when they're open to a house. So they really need to be, when it is that a door is ma'akev, a door is, well, I think it's really the only way to learn the Rambam, is that it's not ma'akev unless it's a type of door which you need for tznius, normally for a house. So a chiddush I was thinking based on this, it's very possible, and I haven't seen anybody else talk about this yet, but I haven't looked that much, that it's very possible, according to the Rambam, even according to the Rambam, that you need a door to be considered a doorway. It might only be those doors which you need to have tznius from them. But if you Badafka build certain openings in your house, like to the kitchen or whatever that you want to have an open door policy, that you want to have the kitchen open into the dining room or something. So perhaps, according to the Rambam, it will be chayav midaraisa even without an actual door there, because your house already has its sneas by the front and back doors. So perhaps maybe a bedrooms need more sneas. That Rambam might agree there. Without a door, it doesn't work. But perhaps other doors inside the house that you don't want to have sneas, maybe the Rambam would actually say it's chayav, which I mean, even according to the Rambam, you put it up with a bracha if you're putting it up by itself. So right now that's Sorach Iyun. It's according to the Gedolei Hektish, it's Pshat in the Rambam, that might be a tremendous chiddush halacha. It's very gishmak. So moving on over here, that the Gemara and the next piece of Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, also can mean nagar psula. If you put it up like a nagar, like a woodworker, I forgot how to say that in English, a carpenter, sorry. Like the way carpenters put it up, it's puzzle. The pashtus is like a carpenter, like Rashi seems to be learning, is that a carpenter knocks a nail into the wall. So if you drill a hole in the wall and you stick the mezuzah as like drilled into the wall, then that's puzzle. But Rashi goes on to say as well that it's puzzle not only drilled into the wall, but it's also puzzle if you would have it attached to the wall on the outside, as long as it's laying down. And Rashi learns that a mezuzah, the way it has to be is straight up and down. The way it's written is the way it has to be standing on the doorway, straight up and down. And the Gemara asks the kasha that the mezuzah of Bei Rebbe was kamin nagar. So it says, the Gemara says at the end, lo kasha, ha davida kasichta, ha davida kastavira. So Rashi has two lashonos over here, what that means. The Pashtus, he goes with the lashon that if it's partially bent, it's like bent in the bottom like a nun, and it goes up, so part of it's up, so then it's still kosher. That's how Rashi ends up. Now, right, it's a famous machlokas, Rashi and Ben Etam, or Ben Etam and Tosfos learns that the exact opposite. He learns that if it's straight up and down, it's puzzle. The way it needs to be is lying flat. He brings many rayas to that. That's the way that the Tani says it's derech kavod. It's puzzle when it's not derech kavod. It's very interesting. Psul. Where does that psul come from? That it's not derech kavod, and we're not sure. But that's the way we learn that it's puzzle and it's not derech kavod. And his raya, the derech kavod for the kisvei kodesh, is, for example, it says the luchos were laying flat in the Aron Kodesh, in the Beis Hamikdash. They weren't allowed to be standing up. At the end of Tosfos, it brings a raya from the Sefer Torah at the bima. While it's standing up, then people stand. When it lays down on the bima, then everybody sits down. So you see that the derech kavod for the Sefer Torah is for it to be lying down. Huadin with the mezuzah, its derech kavod is it should be laying down. It should be on the doorway, but laying sideways, not up and down. So so now we have this machlokas, and Tosfos learns that to get out of the machlokas, you could put it by alachzon. You put it at a slant. It's interesting when Tosfos quotes that. When the Torah quotes it, he brings the two shitas, and mainly they're passing like Rashi, not like a Ben Etam. But the Torah is in Reish Pei Tes Vav. He brings down that also kamin nagar is puzzle. Pirish Rashi shetachva besoch omek hamezuzah kabriach shenichnas b'chor. Tzurich aliyah sekufa orkal arach mezuzah pesach. So Rashi learns, like we said, he brings down Rashi that it was drilled into the doorway, but the way it needs to be is not drilled in, but standing straight up and down. Okay. And Rebbeinu Tam learns that shapsula beskifa. It's puzzle when it's standing up and down. And that's what it means. Nagar is standing up and down, but you have to lay it down flat. So he ends off in saying that Medaktakin yotzim yidei shneim v'kodem chetzia b'skifa v'chetzia b'shkiva kanun kfufa. That you should put, to be yotzei both, you have it partly flat and partly up. The question is, what does that really fulfill? How does that? Rashi himself brought that shot down, and what does that really fulfill? Because if it's partially down and partially up, then it's not really up or it's not really down. How does that really fulfill anything? Now the Ramah, when he brings down this halacha, the Shulchan Aruch passes that just like he goes straight with Rashi, he goes straight with Rashi. He doesn't even mention Rabbeinu Tam, and the Ramah says that's the minhag, but Yesh Omrim, some say that it's possible when it's standing up and down. The Ramah quotes Rabbeinu Tam and says that he should be laying down. But those that are medaktek mitzvahs try to be yotzei both. It seems to be quoting the Torah over here. It says you should put it at a slant. Shipua ba'alaksan. But in fact, that's not really the Torah. The Torah said to put it like a nun, but it's really like Tosas. Tosas mentioned the lashon ba'alaksan. And the question is that, what do you gain by putting it ba'alaksan? If it needs to be standing up and straight up and down, and if it's laying, as if it's at a slant, then it's not up and down. If you need it for it to be laying down, also a lakson is not laying down. So you're yotzei nobody that way. So how are you fulfilling anything that way? So I thought to say, and I found Achronim to say this. I don't remember where I saw it, but I think the Pashut Shot is going to be that. I think maybe I saw it in the Sefer Piskei Mezuzah. Also, I found he says this in the name of certain Achronim, that the Pshat and Rabbeinu Tam or Rashi, according to both of them, is not that Rabbeinu Tam holds it has to be laying down, or Rashi holds it has to be straight up and down. It's really the opposite. The Rabbeinu Tam says it's not covered for it to be straight up and down. So if it's laying at a slant, then it's not straight up and down. Then it's not missing derech kavod. Since the optimal derech kavod is for it to be laying down. Straight up and down is not derech kavod. It's possible mitzad that. So as long as it's not straight up and down, if you put it ba'alakson, you put it at a slant, then it's not straight up and down. So it's not puzzle anymore mitzad derech kavod. And Rashi is the opposite. It's puzzle if it's laying down, but if it's at a slant, it's not laying down. So it's not that you need it straight up and down in Rashi, and you need it laying down according to Rabbeinu Tam. It's opposite. According to Rashi, you just need it for it not to be laying down, and Rabbeinu Tam you need it for it not to be straight up and down. So really, it comes out that if you put it at a slant, you're really yotzei both, because it doesn't get to the point that it's a puzzle for not being derech kavod. So that's the. I'll just throw in but just to point out that the Ikra halacha. We're being yotzei Rabbeinu Tam because it's bedaktakim or yotzei Rabbeinu Tam, but the Ikra din, especially if you can't do it, Ikra din is really like Rashi that it should be straight up and down. If we can, we try to be yotzei Rabbeinu Tam, but that's only because Ramon mentions it. The Sfardim is well known that they always have the mezuzah straight up and down, because the Chaber only mentions Rashi. It does not even mention Rabbeinu Tam at all. Just the Ashkenazim that try to do both, because Ramah mentions Rabbeinu Tam and mentions the Eitzah of Alachson. Just al derech tzachus, and if you ever need a nice drasha for a Sheva Brachas. So I once heard there was a darshan that passed through town once, and he told me, an older man from Europe, said to me that or you can ask a kasha that when somebody builds a house, they try to make sure that it's well built and all the angles are straight. They use the bubble, to make sure that all angles are straight and all the walls are right angles, nothing's at a slant. And then when you're ready to move into the house, you put it in your mezuzahs at a slant. So why should that be? It seems to be connected the way you build the house. So he said that because the reason we put it at a slant is to be yotzei the machlokas Rabbeinu Tam and Rashi. So you're not going to exactly do it the optimal way according to either one, but at least you yotzei both that way. So he said also when you're moving into a house, mezuzah is chovas hadar. It's a chiyuv on the dira in the house. So when you move into a house, there isn't just one dea, one opinion. There's a husband and a wife. So you have to learn when you put up the mezuzah that each one is going to have to bend a little bit in order to be Yotzei both. In order to have Shalom Bayis, you need to bend when you. That's the way you move into a house. That's what he told me. It's a very nice word to say at Shabbat Brachos. Just you would have trouble saying that at Sephardi Shabbat Brachos, because my stuff is that maybe you could say that, as a joke, that by Sephardim there's only one opinion in the house. A joke. Okay. Now, that's as far as that Gemara goes. Going a little bit further, in the same sugya, we see as a side point over here, which is not really our sugya here, but once it's here, we'll talk about it a little bit, that the Gemara says, when it brings the Nagar, so the Gemara asks the Kasha, Ki Yasser Yitzchak Bar Yosef, Amar Kula Mezuzta de Bei Rebbe, Kamen Nagar Hava Avidim. The Pischa de Ayel Bei Rebbe, Bei Medrasha, Lo Hava Le Mezuzah. This Pesach the Rebbe had to go into the Beis Medrash didn't have a mezuzah. So Rashi learns over here it didn't have a mezuzah because it wasn't rugel to be used. It was only to be used by an individual. Because the Gemara afterwards, after that, the next Gemara down says, Amy, Va'ad Pischa dehava ayel bei Rav Huna the Bei Medrasha v'havya le mezuzah. So how could Rebbe not have mezuzahs on his Beis Medrash if Rav Huna did? So how would he not go according to Rebbe? What's going on? So the Gemara says, Ahu rogel hava. Damar Yehuda Amar Rav, mezuzah helech akar ha-rogel. So Rashi learns over here, Betzim, that the whole shayla of rogel, which we're not going to go really into that per se right now, that's a separate discussion, that if you have two doors according to Rashi, and one of them is rogel and one of them is not used very often, then if the inner rogel becomes batul to the rogel. That's Shitas Rashi. And we mentioned this before also by Heker Tzir a little bit. That's a whole sugya on its own right, which we'll see more in Amud Beis when we get to that in the end of Amud Beis, that there's a big question about rugil, if it's shaykh to say that one door is batul to the other. The Rambam disagrees with the Rashi. The Rambam holds that even if you have one rugil and one not, as long as it's usable and it's used even rarely, all the doors are chayav and mezuzah. This is as a lesser door because less used to be batul to the other one. We never say that. But since Rashi learns that the whole problem over here is only mitzad rugil, Rashi doesn't have a problem that mitzad the Beis Medrash itself. Mashma, according to Rashi, that a Beis Medrash is chayav and a mezuzah, because the whole issue over here is not whether a Beis Medrash is chayav or not. It's about it's a side question of rugil and inner rugil. But if it would be rugil, for sure it would be chayav, even though it's talking about a Beis Medrash. Tosfos has a kasha from Yuma in Yud Alpha and Beis in the sugya there of mezuzah, which there's a brayso there that says Yachol Yeh Batei Knesios Batei Midrashos Tamid Ben Goyim Tamid Lo Rabah Shalo Abayis, and we compare over there the halachos of Tuma and Tara to Abayis to Chiyuv Mezuzah. So Tosfos sees from that Gemara that a Beis Medrash is patur from a mezuzah. So the Mela Tosfos learns that our Gemara over here is that it's discussing this doorway. It has to be a doorway which leads from the house directly into the Beis Medrash. Rebbe must have had a house attached to the Beis Medrash, like rabbis have. Sometimes there was a rabbi's house attached to the shul. So Rebbe had his house attached to the Beis Medrash, and he had a doorway there, and that's the discussion of the Gemara, whether that door is chayav or not. Even though at the end Tosfos brings the Yerushalmi, it's mashma that a Beis Medrash of Chanina had a mezuzah, but even so, he holds that the Bavli is not that way, because our Gemara is mashma. He's medayek from Lashon Gemara that says Ahu Pischa Dava Bei Reb Huna, Hava Le Mezuzah, Dafka Bei Reb Huna, not the Beis Medrash Reb Huna, but Reb Huna's house. So see that the chiyuv is only on a house, and according to the Bavli, not like the Yerushalmi. And the Rush brings Tosfos down as well. Just the Rush brings down a B'Shem Maram Rittenberg as Rebbe, that he did put a mezuzah in his Beis Medrash, because he said for a long time he used to take naps, his afternoon nap in the Beis Medrash, and whenever he took a nap without a mezuzah, he was mavasa ruach ra, some kind of ruach ra overtook him when he took a nap there. So he put a mezuzah up and it didn't bother him anymore. So the Maram held that a Beis Medrash should have mezuzah. So this is a big machlokas. The Rambam learns also, like we mentioned, the Rambam learns that a Beis Medrash is potter, and the Beis Yosef says that the Rambam learns like Tosfos in the Gemara, and the Tur also Resh Pei Vav Sif Yud. It says Beis Medrash potter min mezuzah. Yeshua Pesach Shavaga Lotzes, but LeBeisoi Chayav. Beis Medrash is potter that says a Tur, but if it has a doorway that leads into your house, you ruggle to go in and out of that to the house, then it would be Chayav. And then he brings the Yerushalmi, and also Rambam Rutenberg is like the Yerushalmi, he did put it up. But the Tur himself seemed to paskin not that way, and also in the Shulchan Aruch, the Stam Psak of the Shulchan Aruch, also in Resh Pei Vav Sif Yud, is Beis Medrash potter min mezuzah. But if it has a doorway to the house, then it's chayav. And he brings Yesh Omrim that it's chayav, and Shulchan Aruch ends off and nachon lachush le'divrayim v'lo yavarach aleha. It's proper to be choshesh for the shita that it's chayav because it's a Yerushalmi, it's a Rambam Rutenberg. It's a very solid backing. So therefore, it's proper to be choshesh, but you shouldn't make a bracha on it. And the Shach in Sifkat Yud Tes explains that the svara of those that are mechayev says that a mezuzah is potter unless it's a beis dira. So why should a beis medrash be chayev? Says the Shach, the beis medrash came in a talmidin yoshvim bo mi'aboker v'ad erev doma ledira. Those that are mechayev say it's similar to a beis dira because they're living there more than they're in their house. People living in the beis medrash all day, especially back in the days, back in the real days of Europe and everything. People would sleep on the bench of the Beis Medrash. They didn't have a chadar ochel or a dorm to go to. They would just sleep at the Beis Medrash. Then obviously it would be such a case would be chayav. I have a friend who his grandfather was a big Baal Musar and came to Eretz Yisrael when they first built the Panovich Yeshiva in Bnei Brak. So he took a tour of the Panovich Yeshiva, and then he came out. He was yelling, saying, "How could a person learn Torah in a place like this? How can you learn here Torah in such a place?" I said, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" He said, "There's a chadar ochel. There's a dormitory. Like, how do you learn Torah? You get up and leave the Beis Medrash to eat and go to sleep." Someone brought us some porridge to the Beis Medrash, and we fell asleep on the bench, and we woke up, kept learning. How can you learn in a place like this? So it was a different world. But today also, often people eat in the Beis Medrash. So it's for sure, it's Nachon Hachmir, they say to put a mezuzah up there. Okay, so I just want to touch on this because right here in the Gemara, we have a Tosfos and a Rashi and a Gemara over here, but we're going to talk about this a lot more when we get to the Sugya in Yuma Mir Hashem, which talks about the Beis HaMikdash and the Lishkas Fahadrin, where the Kohen Gadol used to sleep and live for periods of time. And over there, it's a much bigger discussion about the Shaila of a Beis Medrash. Just wanted to end off with a word of Yunana Diyoma. It's a well-known Shaila that the Torah asks in the beginning of Hilchos Sukkah, that since we sit in the Sukkah, L'zecher Anani HaKavod, that's the Iker psak we have from the Sugya and Sukkah, that's L'zecher Anani HaKavod. So then why shouldn't we sit in the Sukkah in Pesach? Anani HaKavod started, we left Mitzrayim, not in the middle of the winter, it's 6 months later. When we left Mitzrayim, Pesach, so that we should, for Leil Pesach, we should sit in a Sukkah and eat our matzah. That's when the Anani HaKavod started. So the Torah says an answer that depends on the weather, and it's not nicker because it's in cold places. People start going inside the house, not outside the house. It's cold in Sukkot. That answer won't work very well in Dallas, where we try to look for air conditioners for our Sukkah, not heaters. The Gra in Shir Shirim famously answers this, saying that it's true that the Sukkah is Zecher Anani HaKavod, but not the Anani HaKavod when we left Mitzrayim, but the Anani HaKavod that came back after Yom Kippur, meaning that when Klal Yisrael were choteh the Chet Egel, so then Anani HaKavod left because we lost the Shekhinah at that point. And then we had 3 times Moshe Rabbeinu, 3 times 40 days up and down Har Sinai. And the last time 40 days up and down was finished on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the day Hashem said, Slachti Kippurecha, and he gave us Luchos Shnios. So Yom Kippur is not just about Slicha of Kapara, it's really a day of Kabbalas Torah. That's the day we got Luchos Shnios. But we didn't really know that our Kapara was complete. It was truly accepted. So as part of the Kapara for the Chet Egel, especially according to Rashi, the Mishkan, the Tzibur, the Mishkan was totally as a Kapara for Chet Egel. And the Gra works out the Psukim that the next day after Yom Kippur, Moshe Rabbeinu received the Tzivui to build the Mishkan, and then he went down and commanded Klal Yisrael the following day. So we're already at the 12th, and then the 13th and the 14th, it says Baboker, they went around getting together all the materials to start building the Mishkan. On the 15th, they began to work on actually building the Mishkan. So to show Klal Yisrael that their tshuva was, and their kapara through building the Mishkan is totally accepted, so then the Ananya Kavod came back on the 15th of Tishrei. And that was an incredible simcha in Klal Yisrael, that the Ananya Kavod came back, that Kodesh Baruch Hu showed them clearly by bringing back the Ananya Kavod that left them by Chet Egel, that he truly was makabel their tshuva, and it was the greatest simcha that you could imagine. The whole Klal Yisrael had simcha that was beyond imagination. The simcha of Kabbalah's tshuva. So that, says the Gra, is what we sit in the sukkah, the Zecher Ananya Kavod. It's not the Ananya Kavod of Pesach, it's the Ananya Kavod which came back 5 days after Sukkot, which the first time they came back, that was 15th of Tishrei, which is the day of Sukkot. So it comes out that the simcha that we have when we sit in the sukkah, when we look up and see the Ananya Kavod, is really the simcha of Yom Kippur, the simcha of Kabbalah's tshuva, that we worked on ourselves, we attained the level of becoming Bala Tshuva. Rabbeinu Yonah says in Shar Tshuva and the Shar Beis that one of the reasons why it's a mitzvah to eat before Yom Kippur, that Suda that we eat right before Yom Kippur, is not just to be strong just to be stronger for the tzam, like the Rosh says, but it's laharos simchasa b'yom kaparasa, to show your simcha when your kapara is coming. It's an aid, it's a raya that you really cried tears of remorse and pain over your averas, and now it becomes tears of joy that you know the time has come that Hashem is going to accept it, because we have avtacha, we have emunah shlema that Kodesh Baruch Hu is makabel tshuva on Yom Kippur. So to celebrate that, since you can't celebrate it on eating on Yom Kippur itself, we have to eat right before Yom Kippur as a celebration for the simcha of kapara, and then we have the full simcha of kapara when we get to Sukkot. And that's why the Simchas Beis Shoeva, the Gemara and the Rambam say that whoever didn't see the Simchas Beis Shoeva, lo ra simcha miyalam, you've never seen simcha in your life. But you look in the Gemaras there, the songs they sang were songs of Ashrei Yadusenu Shekapar Zikmusenu. It's all about it's all, they sang songs of tshuva and kapara, because the tremendous simcha that they had was really simcha of kapara, and that's why the Simchas Beis Shoeva was pouring the water onto the mizbeach, which is reminiscent of the tears that cried. The first tears that ever cried was when the waters were separated from Shemayim, brought down to the earth. When on the second day of creation, Hashem was chilek ma'im elyonim ma'im tachtonim, and it says the waters cried and said, "We want to be before our King, not down here." And Hashem said, "Since you had kavanah l'shem Shemayim, you want to be with me. I'll make sure you have a time to get back to me," which is on all the kavanahs we get melach, we get salt, which comes from the oceans, that way goes back to Hashem on the mizbeach, and by pouring the water of the ocean back onto the mizbeach, which that brings it again back to Hashem, like the waters wanted to be close to Hashem. So that crying of the waters from being distant is reminiscent of our crying when we realize we're distant from Hashem through our averas, and the simcha that we have now, the tears of sorrow became tears of joy. So that's the incredible simcha of Simchas Beis Shoeva when we pour that water on the mizbeach, is reminiscent that our tshuva was kabel, we really did tshuva. So Yirtzeh Hashem, our tshuva should continue to be, it continues into Sukkah to Hoshana Rabbah, that we finish it off, the whole process of the tshuva mi'ava, tshuva mi-simcha. That's the greatest level of simcha. This kabel turns all our averas not just to be erased, but actually turns our averas into mitzvahs. We should enter the year that way with our continued steiging and our learning, and have Hatzlach and Siyata D'Shmaya and be Marvin's Torah to all of our all those that we're spending our lives trying to bring closer to Torah. And they should have a Chag Kosher Sameach, a Simcha Dech Yom Tov, and Hatzlacha.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Kol Tov.